Some help for homework 3 for term 2 then. So what we have is a side-by-side comparison of two completely made-up computer systems, and this is where you need to demonstrate your understanding of the different features and how they improve a computer system. So start off with the processor. Things we need to know about the processor is that the speed at which it can complete instructions is measured in hertz. Now, for hertz we want a higher speed, and the reasons for that is it will take less time to execute instructions, e.g. loading a program would load faster, loading an image would load faster, carrying out any instructions, they're going to be completed quicker, meaning that more tasks are done in a shorter space of time. Now that's not all that dictates how good a computer system is going to perform when it's just the processor that's involved. Obviously all these other items come in, and RAM, cache and however, but also the number of cores in that processor is going to be massively important, because that means with a slower processor you could actually have two tasks happening simultaneously, or programs can share, the processors can share the execution of a program, as long as the tasks they're trying to complete are mutually exclusive. So either you have two tasks happening simultaneously, or a program being split and executed simultaneously on two different processors. Next we have RAM, which is the random access memory that the computer system has. Now we obviously want more RAM memory, and the reasons for having more RAM memory is that you can have more programs open at the same time. So the task here is about storing and editing images. So the advantage here is you could have several or more images open at the same time if you have more RAM, or you can have more programs open to allow you to edit. So for example, having Paint, which is a really small program, if you don't have enough RAM to actually open a larger, more complex program like PaintShop Pro, it's either not going to open, or it's going to be very, very slow because the processor has to switch the tasks in and out of RAM all the time. Next we have backing storage. Now that should hopefully be a very simple one for us. The more backing storage, the better. The reason for that is when it comes to editing and saving pictures, well, if we've got more backing storage capacity, then we can store more images on there. Really, really simple one. Next up is cache. So cache is going to really improve the performance of a computer system. We want more cache memory. Obviously it's more expensive. It is nearly instantaneous access speed, and the reasons that it's advantageous are that it stores the most commonly used instructions. It is physically closer to the processor, and it's got a very high access speed. So for all of the instructions that you do the most, so that could be anything to do with a photo editing instruction, then the processor's able to carry those instructions out faster, therefore saving the time that someone editing photos would have to wait for a certain task to be completed. Next one's a trickier one. So we've got the display, or the resolution, and obviously if money's not an object, we want to have a higher resolution display, someone that is looking and trying to edit these photos on their computer system will want to see them as truly represented as possible, especially if their camera is of good quality. So we want a higher resolution here. Hopefully you know that true colour's 24-bit versus the 16-bit colour display there. So obviously one of these is superior and will have a much more clearer image that best represents the original image. If it, for example, 16-bit colour is almost like compressing an image by almost 8 bits, so we lose a lot of colour range there, so the colours might not match the original image if we have to only display it with 16-bit colours. And the last one, data transfer rate, which is obviously measured in bits per second. Hopefully you know which of the two in the question here is the better. Obviously we want a higher number. And the reasons for having a higher data transfer rate are to do with saving to backend storage. So obviously if it takes less time to actually save and transfer a file, whether we're opening it or saving it, means that there's less time waiting for that instruction actually to be completed. Therefore you get on with editing faster and your job's finished much quicker. So make sure you make reference to a specific reason why we want higher data transfer rate and so on, and look at the marking instructions for this too. Very important that your answers are very clear and well explained, and pretend it's someone who doesn't know anything about computer systems that's trying to buy between these two devices, and make sure that your explanation is really clear to someone that doesn't understand anything about computer systems.